Hello crafty friends, welcome to April's penultimate background busting video. Today I've selected 9 quite light backgrounds and I've used my stitched rectangle panel die to cut them out. So they've got lovely neat edges. So they're going to be the main panel on the front of my card. I've also selected a whole bunch of bits in colours that I think will work well with those backgrounds. And I'm going to punch circles from these. Punching is a great way to quickly get shapes from your backgrounds and bits or your pattern papers. I've only got 2 sizes though. I don't know what happened to my 3rd size of punch, but I cannot find it. So I've selected a stitched circle die that's in between these 2 size-wise, and I'm going to die cut some circles as well. And I've also used these frame circle dies to die cut lots of silver stitched frames. I put them on a post-it like that and ran them through my die cutting machine. And doing it this way, I also get some plain frames from the gaps between the dies. So I'm going for silver as my metallic because I don't want it to overpower everything else. I want it to be subtle, so it's, I guess, almost white. So I'm going to start by punching out lots of circles. I'm going to do my largest circle shape first, because then I can work down through the sizes and get the most out of my papers. A lot of these backgrounds will have been made in my smushing videos. I'll leave a link to those in this video's description. I'm probably going to end up punching a lot more than I need, but I will just put those probably back in my box of backgrounds and bits. You don't have to always punch out a full shape, because some of the circles will come in from the side of my panels, so partial shapes will work too. I want there to be a fairly good contrast between the circles and the backgrounds. So where the backgrounds are quite light and airy, ethereal even, I want more solid colours for the circles so they stand out. If something is not solid enough, I can always ink around it a little bit with a sympathetic colour. So I'm going to keep punching and do some circle die cutting, and then I'll come back to you when I've got my piles. So I've got 3 sizes of circle now and a few little scraps that I can use if I need any more, but I really don't think I'm going to. Before I stick it in my circles down there, I want to add a little bit to my backgrounds. So I've got some circle stamps here and some black ink. And I'm going to stamp my circles, just kind of not quite randomly. I'm going to be intentional with where I put them. I want them to kind of cascade a bit. I might keep them to the right hand side on this particular card, and I'm going to overlap some of them. So I've got different sizes. I've got a dotty one. This one looks like a row of little kind of heart shapes, or a circle of heart shapes. I don't want to overdo it. These cards aren't going to be strictly clean and simple because there'll not be a lot of empty space. I want them to be not too busy. I've got some high-tech all-purpose very sticky glue here, which I'm going to bray it onto my mat to flatten it out. You could use some kind of spreading device like an old gift card or a glue spreader, and then I'll dip my circles into it. And then place these on the card, making sure not to smudge my ink. I never worry about getting glue on my foiled die cuts because I can just take a clean bit of baby wipe and wipe the glue off like that. And I'll press those down with a bit of non-stick paper. Just to neaten up the edges, I'm going to chop off the overhang and then bring in some of my circles. I want to just pick ones that are going to stand out nicely, really. I've got my rule of thirds grid here, and I'm going to use this to position this one so that it sits on that intersection. I think that will make a nice landing spot for a sentiment. Partial big one coming in from the bottom. I'm going to snip this roughly in half and have that coming in from up there, and that coming in from down there. And what I've done with these green ones is created a visual triangle. They lead your eye down here. I could add a bit more of the purple, maybe sticking out from underneath there. I'll just take a little snippet from a scrap and add that there. So that's ready now to go on a card blank, and then I can choose a sentiment and place it on that landing spot that I created. Yep, I'm happy with that. So a nice bold black sentiment on there I think would look good. I'll do that at the end. So I've got another background here. This one I think I created in one of my pigment powder videos. I added pigment powder to water with washing up liquid in it, blew bubbles into it, and then pressed the paper down onto the bubbles. It gave a very light bubbly look, which makes a nice subtle background. Instead of stamping this time, I'm going to use my Zig dot marker. So this is a Zig Clean Colour dot marker. And I'm going to use this just as a visual guide to help me place some dots so I can get a roughly circular dotty pattern. I'm not putting the pen up against the circle because I don't want to get black ink on that. But now I've got a nice dotty circle. And with these dot markers, you can make large or small dots depending on how much pressure you apply when you push down. So I'm going to do some smaller dots around this one by just touching the pen to the paper. And again, I'm going to use this circle as a visual guide and draw a wobbly circle around it with the other end of the pen. It's a fine liner. We'll get a smaller one as well and do a wobbly circle. You don't have to use these as templates if you're particularly good at free-handing circles. If you do several wobbly lines, you can normally estimate a circle. And now I'm going to work my way through all my backgrounds with all my circles and frames and markers and stamps. And when I've done that, I'll come back and show you the finished products. I'm back and I've made my 9 cards. This is all I've got left over of the circles and frames. Probably enough to make a few more cards if I wanted. So here's the card that I made on camera. For my sentiment, I printed off a whole series of this style sentiment and I cut them out with my trimmer. And this one I put on roughly that intersection there. And I chose a big bold sentiment because the backgrounds have turned out quite busy. So I wanted something that would pop amongst all that pattern and colour, and solid black does that. But I also wanted to tie in the sentiment colour with the black in the background. So that's card number 1. For card number 2, I did my stamping in a horizontal band across the front of the card, about 1/3 of the way down. Then I stuck on a bouncing line of circles and frames and added a big congratulations. Again, that sits on that 3rd line there, but it's in the middle. Card number 3, I did 3 clusters of stamping and then clustered some just purple this time, circles and silver frames in the middle here, about 1/3 of the way down. And then I popped my sentiment over the circles again, about 1/3 of the way down on that intersection. For this one, I did my stamping in a diagonal across the card like that, and then added my circles in a diagonal on top. I did put this big, bolder, different green colour circle in the middle to make it stand out a bit, and added the sentiment on top of that. For card number 5, I did 3 clusters of stamping again, sort of a visual triangle, and then 3 lots of circles with a big silver frame around that one to draw your eye and a sentiment on top of that. For the rest of the cards, I used the zig pen rather than the stamps, and I just did some rows of dots down and joined them with a thin line, then created a cluster on that intersection there with a nice bold sentiment. This might be considered clean and simple because this, although it does have a very subtle pattern on it, is really empty white space. It's got a slight green shimmer to it. For card 7, I used the dot marker and the fine line end again to do a horizontal band of dots and squiggles, and then a big cluster of circles and frames in the middle with a bold sentiment on top. This is card number 8, and I did a visual triangle again, 1, 2, 3, and I did some dots and lines and then layered on some partial circles and a bold sentiment on that third line there in the middle. And my final card, card number 9, this was the one that I did the pen marks on the video. I just cascaded my frames and circles down and then added the happy birthday on that intersection there. And there you have 9 cards, all made from different backgrounds that aren't really related to each other. But because I picked a cohesive colour scheme, because I used the same metallic cardstock for my frames, because I'm using the same sentiment, I can bring them all together and create a set. And I deliberately put a different sentiment on each card so that I could gift this to someone and they'd have a full set of sentiments for your everyday kind of cards. So I hope this video has given you plenty of ideas to play with, and I hope this month has helped you to bust some of the backgrounds or pattern papers in your stash. If it has, please do let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll see you back here very soon for our last April background busting video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.